All right, so we are back with another broadcast for iCOACH. Today we got a good lineup, things to talk about. But I do want to start off with this. Like I said, start off with every show with some funny things, some current events, some things that happened, this week. So something that is on my heart that I'm passionate about is especially youth learning the right way. So was at a ballpark and saw little kids practice, baseball practice, and very well-intentioned coaches. Most of these coaches are dads, and they step up. A lot of them love baseball. A lot of them love to influence kids with baseball, and they just love it. And they might have played it, or maybe they didn't, but they just love it. And there's a difference between loving a sport and really wanting to coach it, and then actually knowing how to be a good coach. There is a difference between being a good coach and a bad coach. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And so I saw these dads teaching these little kids some things about baseball, just some footwork and infield footwork drills and things like that. And while they meant well, and while it wasn't all wrong, it just wasn't exactly right. I don't know if that makes sense, but the problem that I have with this is that these kids at like 7, 8, and 9 years old. I mean, there's a whole other show we can talk about with kids as young as 5 years old, and we are going to spend a little bit of time on it today. But kids as young as 5 years old that are being put in travel ball, they don't even know how to play baseball. Anyway, different show. Excuse me. So I see these dads, these coaches out there, and they're teaching these kids, and the kids are excited, and they got all these kids, lined up, and they're doing these things, and it's not all bad. I mean, they're catching the balls and things like that, but when I look at it, I look at the mechanics of what they're doing, because at this age, they don't know how to do the things properly. They're basically at that age relying on how good they are. Like, can I hit a ball? Can I throw a ball hard? But can I run fast? But their mechanics of how to play baseball, they don't know them yet. They haven't developed them yet, and these coaches are not developing them. They're just doing what they've seen, or what they did growing up, or what they think is the right thing to do. And so it's a little annoying, honestly, because then we have kids. Where one of the previous shows we talked about something like 70% or whatever, the percentage was so astronomical of kids that drop out of sports by the time they're 13. A lot of it is because of the pressure, and we're going to talk about that a little bit today. But another aspect of it is they're not taught right when they're young. And so as the game progresses, they don't. And it doesn't become fun. Now it becomes hard. They become confused. They become embarrassed. All these kids drop out because they haven't developed their skills. So for all of you guys, girls, women, men, coaches out there that want to pursue coaching, maybe you're already a coach. The most important thing for any young player is to develop their fundamentals, not just to develop their fundamentals, because everybody thinks I can shoot a layup. Everybody thinks I can field a ground ball. Everybody thinks I can swing a bat. But you have to master the fundamentals. If you do that at a young age, as the game progresses, so will your skills, and it will become more fun. And the game will never be easy, but it'll become more simple. So there's a difference between being easy and being simple. So that's my little tidbit today before we start the show. If anybody ends up catching this show and you have some questions about coaching and those kinds of things, I can definitely help you. I love to study the mechanics and the movements that are involved in the mechanics and how that relates to making a player better. There's so many little things that get overlooked. But anyway, all right. So we're going to move on to our show today. We have 3 topics that we're going to talk about. Before we start, just want to let you know, and I'll go ahead and put it in here. But if you ever want to be a guest on the show, let me know. You can email me. You look over in the chat box. I'm about to type it in here. But if you go to the website, there's a contact box, or my email's up there. Our phone numbers are up there. Text me, email me, call in. Just let's chat. Let's connect. And let's talk about how we can get you on the show to talk about specific items. So you can always go online and see the topics that are coming up. And if you have something to say and would like to be on the show, text, call, email. Look down in the chat box. It's going to be over there on my screen. So I don't know where it is on yours, but look down in the chat box. I'll put my email, put the phone number you can text in. Let me know. During any show, during any live show, you can also email, call, text. And you can use this chat box too if you're on here. So we will use those different methods, and we will try to feature some of these questions that are coming in. But let me go ahead and put this in here, info@iCOACH.today. All right, so that's the email. Here's the phone number coming through. All right, so we got info@iCOACH.today. The phone number 704-750-8326. Email, call in. Obviously, the website is www.icoach.today. Okay, so let's move into the show. 3 topics that are near and dear to my heart. Some personal, some professional, and so we're going to talk about some of this stuff. So the first one is the good versus the great. Right? You may have seen this. And since I'm new to live broadcasting, I'm using YouTube Live. There may be a feature to do this. I don't know it yet. I'll figure it out. I'll learn it. I wish I could flash the thing up on the screen while I'm talking, so I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out. But all right, so the good versus the great. There's a difference between a good athlete and a great athlete, and there's a fine line between what separates them. Okay, so let's talk about the good athlete. So there are a lot of good athletes. There are a lot of good athletes. Let's take basketball, for instance. Somebody can dunk. They think they're a good athlete. They're probably very athletic. You may even do really well in your games and things like that. And you could be a good athlete by doing well. You can be a good athlete if you have good fundamentals. You can be a good athlete if you think the game well. You can be considered a good athlete if when you look at somebody and you can tell that they just have something where they know some things where maybe other players don't. They move in ways that some of the other players don't. They can do some things that other players can't. Okay, those are good athletes. Obviously, there's bad athletes, and we won't even get into it. But there's bad athletes that think they're good. Okay, in soccer, if I can kick the ball far, that doesn't make me a good soccer player. Okay, which on a side note, parents that are telling their young kids just kick it, that bothers me a little bit as a soccer coach, because that's not soccer all the time. So, but you have a good athlete who is athletic, talented, does really well in their sport during their season. And that's important, during their season. Okay. So you got a soccer player comes out, he's scoring some goals, or he's being able to dribble around some people, or he's even making some really good passes, doing some good things, seeing the field a little bit, all that kind of stuff. Oh, that's fun. Got a little going on with my hair there. All right. And somebody might look at him and say, man, he's a good soccer player. Okay, or he's a good athlete, and that might be true. But then there's great athletes. Sometimes the line is very fine between the two. Sometimes it's ginormous. But the great athletes, okay, they do the same things as the good athletes. If I'm a great basketball player, I'm still shooting, I'm still dribbling, still playing defense, still jumping, and I may do the same exact things as the good athlete. But if I'm a great athlete, here is what separates the great athletes from the good athletes, is what they do when there is no crowd. Okay? So what I would do in front of a crowd, I should be doing that when there's nobody watching. Okay? A lot of very good athletes are only good because they're athletic, where they have some skill, they are already fast, they can jump, maybe they work hard during their season, during practice. But the good athlete plays soccer during soccer season. The good athlete plays basketball during the basketball season, baseball season, and so on, football season. The great athlete is always trying to gain the athletic advantage. Okay, so when you're at home, so for you athletes, when you're at home, and you're on the couch and you're like this all day, boom, boom, checking your phone, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. When you're sitting on your phone looking at YouTube and spending your hours, your free time, trying to become Insta famous, you're trying to become a social media icon. You're trying to go viral. That's great. That's all fun. And it is the culture we live in today. But if you want to be a great athlete, you cannot spend your time trying to be a fake superstar, which is what social media is anyway. Okay. If you want to be a great athlete, you need to put the phone down. You need to get off the couch. You need to go do something that is going to give you an athletic advantage in whatever sport you're playing. And it could be anything. It doesn't always have to go run miles and miles, but are you out in the front yard juggling a soccer ball? Are you dribbling a basketball? Are you swinging? You taking reps with the bat for baseball? Are you throwing? Find a wall. If you're a pitcher, just find a wall. Okay, I played baseball growing up, and there was a local school I would walk down to, and they had a wall we used to play wall ball on, and I would go down there and pitch. I would throw it off their field ground balls and throw. I'd act as a catcher, trying to throw somebody out. Okay, I put a little box on the wall with tape. You do not have to have sophisticated weights. You don't have to belong to a gym. You don't have to have all these things before you can say, I can become a great athlete. Too many good athletes make excuses, and that's why they never become great. Behind every good athlete who never became great, there's always an excuse. Okay? And again, listen, I can exaggerate here because this is my show, and I'm sharing my opinion. I'm sure not everybody agrees with me, and I'm sure if I sit down and unpack it, there are times and there are outliers that don't fall into that. However, if I have a good athlete and that good athlete wants to become great and he doesn't, more often than not, there's an excuse in there somewhere. And a lot of the excuses are I don't have the equipment. I can't get to a gym. Well, okay, do push-ups, do body weight exercise, do sports performance workouts with whatever you have. Okay. There's a commercial that really kind of ticks me off. It's a commercial about either, I think it was like virtual workouts or getting back into the gym or something like that. And the guy makes a comment for those of you that don't want to lift any more bags of flour, lifting bags of flour will help you get strong, just like lifting weights, if that's all you can lift, right? If I fill milk jugs and I put them on strings and there is no difference. If you can't afford a gym membership, if you can't afford weights, if you don't have access to those things, that is not an excuse because you still have body weight. You can still create things to lift, okay? There are junkyards all over the place, all right? Go there and flip some tires, okay? There are things that you can do as far as the strength where you don't need all these fancy weights. Okay, I don't have agility ladders. I don't have cones. So what? Pick an imaginary line on the floor and do the icky shuffle across there. Okay. Use rocks as cones. My point is this: there's not any room for excuses if you want to become a great athlete. The great athletes are always the ones that are doing the things necessary to give them an athletic advantage, and not just when it's convenient for them, and definitely not just during the season. Okay, so there's for you athletes that are serious, you already know this. Okay, for those of you that want to become serious, you should learn this. There's not just a season. You don't just play during soccer season or basketball season. And if you're a multi-sport athlete, fantastic. I love that. I prefer multi-sport athletes over specialized. So if you're a multi-sport athlete, you can still have these same 3 phases of your performance or your development or whatever you want to call it. Okay, and you may just have to get a little creative. Okay, so there's always a preseason, in-season, and off-season. Always those 3. There's always preseason, in-season, off-season. You should be doing something during every one of them. Now, in-season obviously is going to look way different because you're playing games, you're playing practices, you're practicing, you're doing things with the team. It's usually every day or at least 4 days a week. So you're always doing something. You're off the field, behind the scenes, when nobody's looking, kind of things may look a little different because you're getting a lot of that already with your games and practices. Okay, but you still should be doing something. There's other things you can work on. Your preseason and your postseason will look very different than your in-season. Okay, and if I'm a great athlete, I am very active in all 3 of those phases of my athletic development. If I'm a good athlete, I'm not. If I'm a good athlete, I pick one. And I may spend some time of it. But if I'm a good athlete that's trying to be great and just can't get there, I generally focus only on the in-season. You know, if I'm a basketball player and the first time I pick up a basketball is October, and then when the season's done in February, like, okay, then I don't pick up another basketball till October. Now, I'm not saying you have to play AAU. You don't have to play AAU. There are players that don't play AAU that are better than some of these AAU players. Okay, and we're not even talking about AAU because AAU has turned into a money machine. Okay, it's not necessarily for the elite player anymore. It's just if I have some money, I'll create a club so I can generate some income. Okay, that doesn't necessarily mean you're the best players around. All right, so AAU, what it was intended to be, is not what it is today. But that aside, and that's with anything. That's travel baseball, that's soccer, basketball, football. But all these things now are controlled by money. Money rules everything. So it's no longer just the elite player. And case in point, how many 12-year-old or 11-year-old, let's say even 10-year-old, how many 11-year-old, 10, 11-year-olds soccer players, how many state championships can they play in? There's only one state championship, but every single tournament these kids go to is called a state cup. It's because you call it a state cup, you have a sanctioned tournament, and you generate some money because a team, all they have to do is register and pay. You don't get selected. There are the ones that you get selected for, invited to. Those are legit. Okay. The other ones, it's just a tournament to make some money. It's very good competition. I mean, it's great to get these kids together. This big tournament, the atmosphere, it's awesome. But we're lying to these kids, and this is a whole nother show. I am starting to get off on a tangent, but because I get frustrated at this, but we are lying to our youth athletes. Okay. All right. So I'll talk about that another time. I'll write that down. Maybe that'll be a little thing. Okay. So you have a ton of good athletes. They want to be great and they never get there because they only focus on that one phase of their athletic journey. And generally it's just the stuff to play. Okay. But if you want to be great, you have to do all the other stuff. You have to do all the other stuff. And here's the thing. In the midst of all those other stuff, okay, there can't be quitting. There can't be giving up. There has to be, I need to challenge my body. Okay, I'm not going to say push my body because some athletes are dumb and they're like, well, I'm just going to lift every day and I'm going to bench press as much as I can well, that's stupid because there's it's science. Okay, there's human kinetics and your body, the way it heals and develops and tears and then heals and then there's phases and there's different workouts. And if you don't consider any of that stuff, you're just being ignorant. And to say I'm just gonna bench press every day, okay, at some point you're gonna plateau and then you're gonna wonder why you're not getting better. But in the midst of all this stuff, you need to challenge your body. You need to challenge your mind as well to accomplish things you didn't think you could. So if I can do 10 push-ups from my toes, I use this as an example. If I can do 10 push-ups from my toes and I get to 10 and I didn't struggle, why am I stopping at 10? Okay. In my sports performance training, we do a lot of circuit training. And so we'll do 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, 30 seconds on, blah, blah. And we do upper body, lower body, core, upper body, lower body, core. And it's all these 5-minute intervals with 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. It's a lot of fun, but you work really hard. Whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. So if you're lazy, you're not going to get any results. If you're not lazy and you work really hard, 100% effort, you're going to see results very, very quickly. Okay. But in there, I challenge the guys to do 30 push-ups in 30 seconds. It's not easy. Okay. I don't even say it's simple. I mean, it's hard. But a lot of these guys will get to 10 push-ups. And I always say the minimum is 10. Your goal is 10, but try to get 30. Anything in between there, that's good. Work for that. And then each set we do one more. But these guys that can do 15 and 20, they do 10 because that's the goal and they stop or they hold it or they sit down. And in these classes, I keep encouraging, keep going. But I'm not going to force an athlete to do something because they're not going to benefit from that. I'll benefit from it, but they won't. Okay? If they put in 10 push-ups, but they can do more, they're only going to get 10 push-ups. They're not going to be able to do more. Or let me say, they're not going to accomplish more. They're going to be mediocre. You carry that same mentality, and that's what keeps you stuck. It's like the friend zone of sports. Maybe that's not the best analogy, but it keeps you stuck as a good athlete. And the rest of your life, you will be known as a good athlete. Man, that guy is good. He's good. But I don't want to be good if I'm an athlete. I want to be great. Okay? Even at 43 years old and 2 bad knees, a bad back, my shoulder, I mean, everything's falling apart at this point. It feels like I still want to be great. And so I challenge my body to do things that I know I probably shouldn't do. I can't really do the way I used to, but I want to be great. And so I do the little things. So you want to be a good athlete, you give in to the distractions, your phone, video games, TV, internet, even relationships can be a distraction, all this kind of stuff. I'm not saying none of this is good, everything in moderation, but okay, you give in to those things, and those things steal the time away from you that you could be putting in to become a great athlete. If you want to be a great athlete, sometimes you have to make sacrifices in life. Every time you choose something, you always sacrifice something else, always, no matter what it is. I can choose to drink Mountain Dew. I love it. I'm sacrificing drinking water and the benefits of that. If I choose to drink water, I'm sacrificing drinking soda. Okay, it could be a good thing. I am picking to go out with my friend group on Saturday night. Very good thing. We're going to go hang out. We're going to have a lot of fun. But to do that, you are giving up something either consciously or subconsciously, because if someone comes and says, oh, we had dinner, we were going to invite you over. Okay, a good thing to do is not to break plans, because you stick to your, be a man of your word, be a woman of your word, stick to your commitments. But you go out with your friend group, you miss dinner. You do dinner, you miss your friend group, right? So every choice you make, you're not choosing something else. Okay, so to be a great athlete, you have to not choose certain things. You have to not choose to be mediocre by sitting on the couch all day, on your phone all day, being a TikTok superstar all day. Okay, some relationships you need to not focus on. Okay, some things you're doing in your own personal life you need to not focus on. There's some things you have to not choose. I know that's what's that called, double negative? Maybe, I don't know what it's called, but there's things you have to choose. You have to choose to challenge your body when no one's looking, to do the little things that are going to give you that athletic advantage. Okay, you do that more, and you develop your skill. Okay, the things that are the fun part, right? You do that, but then you do the behind the scenes stuff. You couple it all together, and now you're on your way to being a great athlete. You may never make it professional. You may never play D1, but that doesn't mean you're not a great athlete. There are many great athletes who never made it, okay? But most, if not all, the people that did make it chose to be great, okay? So that's the difference between good and great. All right, number 2, let's see. So, okay, I didn't know what this was called, honestly. I didn't know if this was, those pressure cookers that are like, they're everybody has one, everybody loves them, everybody wants one. They're either called Instapots or Instant Pots. Now, I went online and it says Instant Pot, but I've only ever heard it called Instapot, and that's what I thought it was. But anyway, online I wrote Instant Pot. Either way, the point is that it's a pressure cooker. Okay, the thing is awesome. So maybe I'll get a little sponsor from Instapot if I say their name right. But it's awesome because, like, something that would take you a long period of time, you throw it in that thing and it's like done, and it tastes so good, and you can do so much stuff with it. So it's fantastic. Okay, but the idea behind it is there's so much pressure that builds up and builds up and builds up, and that's what cooks the food. And there's a button or a valve or whatever you want to call it. And my wife is really funny because she cooks with it, right? But when she cooks with it, she doesn't like to release the valve. She doesn't like to like push the button, whatever it is. And so if she's cooking with it, she'll always be like, Jay, can you go do the thing? And I'm like, okay. I'll get, but she's afraid of like the pop, because as soon as you release the valve, as soon as you push the button, whatever it is, it's like all that pressure gets released and steam just shoots out on the top and just keeps shooting out. Okay, it's like a geyser. It's kind of cool, actually. All right, so I want to talk about that a little bit, and I want to relate it. Okay, I want to relate it to sports, and specifically youth sports. Okay, and when I say youth sports, and this can carry over into college as well. Even pros, I guess, but for the most part, it's our youth athletes that experience this. Okay, Instant Pot parents. All right, so I'm gonna tell you a story. Okay, if my family watches this, they will feel my pain. Okay, so growing up, I played. My parents pretty much put me in every sport that they could, which was good. I really benefited as an athlete by doing that. But like 5 years old. I'm in something, and I'm just playing everything. And it wasn't like everything all at once. But growing up, I played pretty much anything they could pay for and put me in. Well, as I got older, I had some talent. I became pretty good at certain sports, and and one of them was baseball. Loved baseball. I became pretty good. I was not a good pitcher. Okay. I could throw the ball hard. I could throw somebody out stealing from home, and I could throw somebody out from third base from my knees. But I couldn't pitch. I don't really get it. But I wasn't a good pitcher. Didn't throw really hard from pitch. But man, I had a nasty curveball. We won't get into that. So anyway, many times, I was on the mound, and from the bleachers, from the sideline, I would hear, "You throw like a girl. Your 9-year-old niece can throw harder than you." And so it was my mother from the bleachers yelling at me because I wasn't doing well. And then I'd be yelling back at her, and it was really kind of embarrassing, I guess, looking back on it. But at the time, I just was mad and angry. But there were so much pressure put on me as a kid to perform. There's a story. My mom denies this, but there are witnesses. I know that some of you out there were there when this happened. Okay, so 12 years old, right? Our 12-year-old team was so good, right? We were really good. And as a side, we got hosed on one of the calls, for the Little League World Series type thing. So, but anyway, we were good, and there was a game where I really wanted a puppy, really wanted a dog. And so I went to my mom, and so I was like, if I hit a home run, can I get a puppy? And my thing, like, I was a home run hitter, so it wasn't unusual for me to hit a home run. And so I kind of knew that there was a chance, like I could do this, that it was within reach. Okay. So I went to my mom and I was like, if I hit a home run, can I have a puppy? And she said, yeah, we'll do that. And I was so excited. I was like, yes, I'm getting a puppy if I hit a home run. So I kind of hoped I did. So I get up, hit a home run, right? So I'm like, oh, I got a puppy. This is fantastic, right? So I get back, I'm all excited. So we're joking around, and I remember going to the fence and saying, hey, Mom, that means a puppy. And she's like, yeah, we'll get you one. I hit another home run. So now the joke became, I'm getting 2 puppies, right? So that was the joke, and I'm kind of joking, but that would have been awesome. As a 12-year-old boy, I'm like, Mom, so now I get 2 puppies, and she's like, yeah, everybody's all smiles and happy. And next time I get up, I strike out, which was very rare. I didn't strike out very often, but I struck out. I'm already excited because I hit a home run. I'm getting a puppy. I go back to the dugout, and what is said to me is what we're going to talk about. And so I struck out. And my mother said, you're not getting any puppies because you struck out. Okay, so that was devastating. And I was angry, and we fought and all that kind of stuff. I never got the puppy for it, but that was an Instapop moment, okay? Because there was so much pressure put on me, not for the puppies. I mean, that was a fun spin we put on it, but there was so much pressure put on me as a young athlete that every now and again it boiled. I mean, the valve was released and it just shot out like a geyser. So I was angry. Now, fortunate, I loved sports so much. I loved it. And I think I was probably a little stubborn as well. And so I wasn't quitting because I was going to prove people wrong. I was going to prove my mother wrong. I was going to prove people wrong. And so I never dropped out of sports, but partly because I just loved it and I wanted to be so great, but I did it apart from all this pressure that was put on me. And there were times where I just crumbled under the pressure. There were times I felt like quitting and felt like giving up, and I didn't want to play, not because I didn't love the sport, not because I wasn't good, not because there wasn't a benefit, because I didn't want this pressure, specifically from my mother. But when you're playing all-stars and you're doing all this, there's so much pressure put on kids today, okay? Now, if you are a sports parent, and I say that any parent of a parent of any athlete, okay, it is when we make winning our goal. It's when we make being the best our goal, winning. When we make that our goal, that is when we start to put pressure on our youth, our kids, okay? Because if they fail, they let us down. If they fail, I won't reach my goal. Okay, that's the problem. It's not the kids. Because here's the thing, like, sports don't change. Baseball doesn't ever change. Soccer never changes. Basketball never changes. Baseball, I mean, it never changes. So it is the same. That's the sport in and of itself is exactly the same. It may look a little different in different continents, but it's exactly the same. It doesn't change. Okay? Our kids should be able to go out and play to their best of their ability, 100% effort, everything they're able to do, and at the same time actually enjoy it, regardless of if they win or lose. Winning and losing has nothing to do with it. You as a sports parent, me as a sports parent, we make winning and losing a part of the equation. We put the pressure on our kids to perform. Unfortunately, it's not for their best interest. We don't have their best interest in mind. We have our best interest in mind. I want my kid to blah, blah, blah. I want this. I want. And if you don't accomplish that, you are in the way of me getting what I want. And that's where it comes from. That's why we have fights, these idiots. Honestly, they're stupid idiots that are fighting at a youth baseball game, at a youth hockey game, at a soccer game, at a football game. I mean, give me a break. These are first-class idiots, okay? For a parent to get upset at an umpire, referee, at their call to the point where they're going to fight, first of all, you're an idiot. Second of all, dude, be a parent. Your time is done, buddy. Like, your kid is playing. It is their experience, not yours. As parents, we should be we should be supporting them. We should be encouraging them. We should be helping them. We should not be demanding that they meet our needs, expectations, goals, those kinds of things. We should challenge them to go 100% effort. Their 100% effort may not be mine, may not be another kid's. Their skill level may not be the same as someone else's. But yet, as parents, we try to force them to do what little Johnny's doing, or to be recognized like little Timmy, or whatever it is. It's unnecessary pressure that we put on these kids today. Eventually, they're going to explode. The valve is going to burst open. Someone is going to push that button, and it's going to shoot out like a geyser. All that pressure is going to be released. There's fights, arguments, suicides, kids quitting and dropping out of sports altogether. There are so many negatives to the Instapot parent. Okay, if you know you're an Instapot parent, you need to stop. You really do, because if you know you are, and you continue, like, you need to get over yourself. We need to get over ourselves as parents. I want my kid to be great. I really do, man. He's a great athlete. My daughter has the potential to be a great athlete. Our 3-year-old, I have no idea. I mean, he dribbles, he just does what they do. But I want my children to be great. I see some things in them that I know they can be. And so there are times where I maybe challenge them, and maybe I push them where I shouldn't. Okay? More often than not, it's because I want them to accomplish something. They may not even want to accomplish it, but I want them to. And so then I insert myself into their athletic experience, and that will never go well. That will never go well, because once you insert yourself into a youth's, into your child, someone else's child, athletic experience, it is only because you want to see a result. You want a certain result. That it is not about you. It is not about me. It is not our athletic experience. It's their athletic experience. They need to be on that journey. We can walk alongside them. We can even pick them up after they get knocked down. We don't need to be there to save them all the time and catch them. And we need to be in it with them, okay? So that when they're confused, when they're down, when they're sad, we can be there, and they can be a safe place to come to say, I am so angry we lost. And instead of being an Instapot parent, and making excuses and blaming every other thing for the reason that you lost, okay? You listen. You sit there and listen. You encourage. You be supportive. You don't let people off the hook. So if somebody gave up, you say, listen, if you would have, if you would have not stopped running, knowing you could have kept going, if you would have not stopped, maybe you would have beat that guy to the ball or something like that. Or if you would have got back on defense, your team maybe wouldn't have been down numbers, knowing you could have got back. Okay, those kinds of things. So you don't let them off the hook. You still challenge them to be their best. You still challenge them to give 100%. However, if they don't win, if they don't accomplish what you want, they are not a failure. Okay, they're not a failure. And this Instapot parenting crap is what's killing youth sports. This is why we have 7-year-olds being told that they are going to go on a track to be a professional athlete. That's why we have 5-year-olds playing travel anything. They barely even know how to spell travel. They definitely don't know how to play the sport. That's why AAU basketball is as bad as it is. There are pockets where it's very good and it's very elite, but there are people that are playing AAU basketball that shouldn't even be on the worst rec teams. That's why youth sports in America is so jacked up. A huge part of the problem equation is Instapot parenting. Okay, to be nicer, some people say living through. My mom lived vicariously through me. I get it. Okay, but she was an Instapot parent. She was an Instapot parent. Okay, she was somebody who did everything I'm talking about. That is the reason why everything. When she would do that, it was everything that was wrong with youth sports today. So if you, and I'm sorry, I am getting a phone call from my son in the middle of this, and it is about asking me to do something or whatever. So just give me. Okay, sorry. So totally, he's asking to sleep over somewhere, and that's why I like something like this, because it's raw. I'm not editing this. It's just real. It is what it is. But Instapot parenting has to stop. Has to stop. Has to stop. Has to stop. If we want our athletes to enjoy athletics, if we want them to progress, if we want that experience to be a positive experience, if we want to help them avoid being on a couch one day hearing the words, "Tell me about your childhood." Okay, I know it's a joke. Listen, I am in counseling, so okay, it's not a knock on counseling, but if we want them to enjoy experience those things, we need to be good parents. We need to not be Instapot parents. We need to be good sports parents. Okay. If we want our children to be affected negatively, then keep being an Instapot parent. Keep trying to live through them. Keep trying to force them to accomplish what you want. Keep trying to get them to do what you couldn't do. Okay. Keep trying to force them to keep up with the Joneses. Live up to everybody's expectations. You have to look a certain way. It's all about image. Keep doing that, and you will ruin your child. Okay? So let's figure out how to allow our youth athletes to develop athletically, to develop mentally, to develop physically, to develop spiritually, to develop in their athletic journey without the pressure being built up where one day it's just going to explode. So, and listen, we're not perfect. Seriously, I'm saying all this stuff. Sometimes it's easier to talk about something, and then when you're in the midst, when you're in the fire, sometimes it's hard to get out. Sometimes you mess up. I mess up a lot. I have to apologize to my children a lot. Okay, we're not perfect. We're all sinful. We all mess up. We all make mistakes. However, if that is our go-to, there's a problem. If that is something that we always do and we never, ever do anything different, that's a problem, okay? And so, yes, we all can help each other. I would be more than happy to talk with people. I would be more than happy to share our experiences regarding this. So if that's something that anybody's interested in, let me know. And yeah, definitely we'll start a little group or something and talk about this specific issue when it comes to youth sports. So, all right. I am just going to answer my son real quick. Okay. All right. So the last topic, we're only going to spend a couple, maybe 10 minutes on it or so. But the last thing that we're going to talk about is some coaching how-tos, so do's and don'ts, or coaching tips, whatever you want to call it. So this won't be a huge segment because it's not really an opinionated thing. It's just some things I've learned. So I've been coaching in one form or another, probably for the last 20 years. Oh, this is awesome. So here's a little parenting thing going on here. Hold on. Okay. So my son right now is asking if he could sleep over at a friend's house because they went to have pizza there. And so I love that he's doing this because he asked me, I asked, what does his mom say? His mom's with him and they're all there. And he said, nothing. I thought I would talk to you first. I love it. That's so cool. So I just said, ask your mom and then tell me what she said. Okay. So little parenting side note. Welcome to my life. All right. So a couple how-tos and coaching tips, things like that. There's a million different things that we can talk about. I can go on and on and on and on and on about tips and how and all this kind of thing. It's really just things over the last 20 plus years I've been coaching in some form or another. I've been playing, I haven't really stopped playing. So so these are things that I picked up along the way. A couple of thoughts that I have along the way, some things that I know work, some things that I know don't work, some things that have already been proven to make you better, okay, as a coach. Okay, so first thing I want to talk about is practice. A lot of times, coaches, well, first of all, I should say this: plan your practices. Okay, I should say that. So as a coach, you need to plan your practice. Winging it is good. Sometimes you got to wing it. Sometimes you show up and you're like, you know what, I'm not gonna have a plan. I'm just gonna let them play. Okay, and sometimes that's really good. But you should plan your practices, and even winging it should be planned. So you should just say, hey, today I'm going to plan to just let them play. Okay? Don't show up without a plan. Don't just show up and have kids looking at you as the expert, looking at you for guidance, for to get better, for development. You're supposed to be the one that is helping them get to where they want to go, either individually or team-wise or whatever. Don't just show up with nothing. Don't show up with nothing. Just be like, we're going to do it today. Okay, that's a bad coach. Okay, so first thing is plan your practices. When you plan your practices, this is my personal opinion. It's my show. I can say whatever I want. You can take it or leave it. You don't have to like it. It doesn't make a difference to me. But if you take it, maybe it'll help you. If not, it might help somebody. So, and this is what I do a lot of. But over the years coaching, speaking with coaches, observing coaches, researching, studying, being with, doing it myself, all these kinds of things, helping other people achieve certain things. Okay. Have a plan for your practice, but don't plan out. Is that the word? Yeah. So don't plan out life lessons. Don't plan, not even life lessons. Don't plan out. I should say, don't plan out IQ. Okay. Don't plan out sports IQ. This is what I mean by this. If you're a coach and practice starts at 3, let's say 3 to 5. Practice starts 3 to 5. And you're a coach and you have 3 o'clock doing this, 3:05, we're doing this 3:07, this 3:12, 3:15, 3:22, and you go all the way till 5 o'clock, where you have by the minute, and you have we're doing this. It's called joysticking. They become robots. You're planning out their mentality, their thinking, their IQ. It is extremely good to have a plan. But in those plans, there has to be time for if someone doesn't understand it. There has to be time for when someone needs to figure it out because not everybody learns the same. There has to be time for kids to ask questions. There has to be time for coaches to step in and say, do you know why? Super important. Plan your practice. But coaches, have a why. Have a why. What's your reason? You should have a reason for every single thing you do. Have a why for every single thing you do in life. Have a why for every single thing you do as a coach. So if I'm doing a drill and any drill, just it doesn't even matter. I'm doing a drill. I need to have a why. Why am I doing this drill? Am I doing it because I found it online and I want to look like a coach? Am I doing it to keep the kids busy? And am I doing it because, man, this looks really cool? Those are all stupid reasons. Those are bad reasons. You should have a why and a reason of how that drill is going to make your athletes better. How is that drill going to bring your team together? How is that drill going to fit? How does it fit into your philosophy? How is it going to produce a game situation? How is it going to help these athletes think on their own so that they can also develop on their own, so they can think through some things, so you don't always have to be over their shoulder telling them what to do? How is that one little drill that you thought was so cool that you found on YouTube going to do all that? Okay, so plan your practices. Have a why. That should be first, actually. Have a why. Plan your practices. Okay, in the midst of those plans, drills are good. Drills are very good, but not drills that you just come up like that are just like, so you dribble in out of cones. Big deal. How many times on a soccer field are you going to zigzag dribble down a field? You're not. Okay. How many times in basketball are you just going to dribble in out of cones for 50 feet? You're not. Okay. You are going to make those same exact cuts quick, short, and then there's going to be something long, and then there's going to be another quick cut, and then another short, and then so set up your drill to mimic exactly what's going to happen in a game. Now, as a coach, you have to think about what's going to happen in a game. So if I'm in a soccer field or I'm in a basketball court and I'm just dribbling out of the cones, that's fantastic. Okay, great. So now your kids can dribble in and out of cones, but it's not realistic. It's not going to be what's going to happen in a game. So have a few cones, let them do some crossover, let them do some move the cones, but then add something. Add some sort of combo, add a combination where they got to inside out dribble to the right and then make a pass and then get it back and then in and out of cones or something like that. Soccer, in and out of cones, just, even if you have 8 cones, but they shouldn't be, they shouldn't just be snaking in and out of a cone. You don't do that. So outside of the foot only, inside, outside, L cuts, just whatever it is, V cuts, whatever it is, add these combination moves that they're actually going to have to use in a game. Okay, so you plan your practices in your plans. Don't just throw cones out to make it look busy. Okay, so sometimes I joke, right? My wife's family, and if they're watching this, I mean, that's whatever. So sometimes with my wife's family, if you look like you're doing something, they think you're doing something. So I kind of got that down pat. So we go on family vacation, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. We go on family vacation. There's like 19 or 20, so it's like 25 of us that go on family vacation every year. We go to a lake house. Usually it's been in Virginia the past several years. It used to be Maine, then we went to Virginia. It was Ocean City at one point. So, but we go to this big lake house. There's 25 of us, and there's like jobs and stuff people have to do. You're cooking, cleaning, all that kind of. Well, if you just move around, you look busy, you look like you're doing something. Sometimes, they don't ask you to do stuff because you look like you're doing something. Okay, might get you out of family chores at family vacation. Terrible coaching. Okay, if you just have your players acting busy or looking busy, you're not helping them develop. Okay, a lot of these things can be done on their own time. Okay, a lot of these things, as a coach, give your players a plan to do on their own, that they can do something on their own, things that are just individual, specific skill, geared towards their individual skill development. Okay, but when you got a team and you're practicing, there's going to be some individual stuff, especially throughout practice. You're going to do some things that are going to develop their individual skills, but it should be all game situations. I don't need to be able to do 17,000 different ball handling drills. If I could just beat the guy with one step, I'll just beat him and go score. All of these things should be in my toolbox, but it's not stuff that I need to do if I can just go by my guy. Okay. So in a game, we should be planning our practices to allow the kids to experience what's going to happen in their game, and that's going to happen is going to allow them to develop as a complete athlete, not just as a dribbler, not just as a shooter, not just as a hitter. Okay, has to be a complete athlete. Okay, so that's planning your practices. I would also say this. Oh, let's see. Hold on one second. Sorry. Let's say you don't have any clothes. You guys are getting real life parenting experience. You're looking through the eyes of the Millers. Okay, my son's trying to sleep over. I love this stuff. But anyway, so plan our practices. We have our why first. We plan our practices. Don't plan out all the things we talked about. Okay, don't be so regimented. It's not boot camp. Don't be so regimented that it's like every child left behind. That is the dumbest plan I've ever seen. So there has to be, it's very good to have things planned, and some things have to be regimented, but there has to be time in your practice where you allow people to develop physically, mentally, relationally. Okay, and you can't if you are on you're just on such a tight schedule that the kids move from here to there and there, and they just do this drill, and then they don't even know what they just did or why they just did it. They have no relationship time. It's just run, go, move, and at the end you're just so tired and sweating, you have no idea what the heck you just did or what benefit it had to you. You just ran around a lot and did a whole bunch of stuff with a ball. Okay, so seems very good. If I'm a parent in the stands, I'm like, wow, that is awesome. And then I'm wondering why my kid can't do certain things because it's not so awesome. Okay, because you can accomplish far greater with looking less busy. If it's just pointed, if it's specific, if it's purposeful. Okay, so let's do that. So be purposeful. That's kind of your why. All right. Plan in time for relationship building, team building. I love team building. Sometimes we take up half a practice doing team building exercises. You want to know why? Because you want your team to bond. Okay. You want your team to gel. That's the buzzword, right? You want your team to work together. You want your team to have each other's backs. You want your team to like each other. That's different than being mad at each other. You want your team to be a family, right? And it's a dysfunctional family because not everybody's going to get along. Some people are going to want something. I should start over that guy. But as a team, when it all comes down to it, we should be one. Well, that doesn't happen in drills. That happens in fooling around. Okay? That happens in the breaks, in the water breaks. That happens in the kids kicking the soccer balls at each other. That happens in basketball when you try to dunk on somebody, or you're playing like silly games, or going one-on-one at the break times. That happens during planned team building times where you force your team to work together to accomplish a goal. Okay? Plan in team building, relationship building times. Okay? And then don't just run to run. Know your sport. Know your what things happen in your sport. For soccer is a bit of endurance, but it's very quick bursts, change of direction, change of speed. I'm not going to have my guys just run 8 miles a day. They should be doing that on their own for endurance sake, but I have them do quick sprints, change of direction, change of speed stuff where it's all quick, short bursts, and then there's some long stuff thrown in there like intervals. And for basketball, you're not running a marathon. They need to be quick, okay? Have them, sprinkle in some endurance stuff, but don't just have them running suicides all practice. That does nothing. Do that on their own. Their suicide runs, their shuttle runs, their whatever you call them, should be done in a game situation. So I got to run out there, touch the cone, come back, catch a pass. Run out there. Do that. Things that are going to be mimic game situations where you're still getting their short, quick bursts. If I'm cross country, I'm not doing short, quick bursts. I'm running for endurance, right? So there's a little bit of interval training and things like that, but know your sport. Be purposeful. Don't do things just to do them without any good reason. Sometimes as coaches, we're like, run. For what? Like what? Here's the other thing. Don't always use running as a punishment. Running is a good thing. It shouldn't be punishment. You're helping your body develop. If it's a punishment, you're not going to want to do it. Don't always use that. That's like using work as a punishment. Work is a good thing. Don't use that as a punishment. Alternate. Okay, team's going to run. Cool. Team's going to do push-ups that loses. Cool. Team that loses has to play leapfrog. do some things that are actually going to, they're developing their bodies and mind without even knowing they're developing their bodies and mind. A lot of things you can do, work on actually sport-specific skill, actual sport-specific skill, without them even knowing they're doing it. And so, yes, they're being punished because they lost the competition or whatever it is, but what they're doing is actually contributing to their overall development to becoming an overall complete athlete. Sometimes it's funny, and make them have to carry their buddy to half quarterback or whatever. So here's my how-tos when it comes to practice. That I wanted to talk about that today because a lot of times practices are jacked up. Sometimes I see coaches running practices and I'm like, what? I mean, what are they accomplishing? They could accomplish that and doing way less or do it way different. Where the team looks like they hate each other. So have your why. That's your very first thing. You have to have a why. If you don't have a why, stop coaching right now. Like this night, where you're at right now, don't coach right now. Think about your why. If you're in the midst of a coaching session right now, finish it and then think of your why. You have to have a why. What is your why? What is your reason? Okay. Then you have to be you have to be purposeful. So you have to have a why. Everything you do needs a reason. It has to have a purpose. You play with purpose. You run with purpose. You shoot with purpose. You pass with purpose. You hit with purpose. You jump. You run. Whatever it is. You dive. You swim. Whatever it is, you do it with purpose. Okay. If I'm playing chess, everything has to be purposeful. Okay. So have your why. Be purposeful. Everything has to have a reason. Okay, for everything you do. And then in the mechanics part of it, don't plan out those intangibles that are so important to relationship building. Okay, the IQ development for each kid. Don't be a joysticking coach. You don't want your players to be robots. You want to help them, but you want them to think on their own. So plan your practices. Everything you plan should be purposeful. Okay, but don't plan out free time. Don't plan out creativity. Don't plan out personality. And if you have everything planned down to the 30 seconds and then by the time you leave, all you've done is move. Don't just be I need my team to look busy kind of coach. You have planned those things out. Your team will not be good. They will not be as good as they can be. Okay? They will not be as good as they can be. And you may have a very good team, but just think about how much greater your team could be if you allow them to experience some of these other things. So anyway, so that's my coaching tips, coaching how-tos. It was mainly on a practice thing. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you want to talk about coaching specifically for practices or just the mentality of coaching, how to develop a philosophy of coaching, I'd love to chat with you. I'd love to talk with you. I am not perfect. I don't have all the answers. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot of things over the years. I've messed up a lot over the years. Okay. I am good at a lot. I also mess up at a lot. So we're not perfect, but we can learn from each other. I know some things you don't. I can learn from you. Some things I don't. So, all right. So that was our show for today. Thank you for being on the show. If you're watching the replay, thank you for checking in. Again, iCoach .today. That's the website. So www.icoach.today. Email us at info@icoach.today. Text us at 704-750-8326. Okay. So email info@icoach.today. Text 704-750-8326. You can also go to Twitter. Sorry, I never put that on there. So you can tweet us. It's at iCoach.today. _today. There it is. Okay, so it's at iCoach_today. Go to Twitter, follow us there, tweet at us. Okay. If you want to be featured on the show, all those avenues are great. Your questions, your comments, your ideas, your opinions, whatever it is, be featured on the show. If you want to be a guest on the show, I'd love to have you call in live, even video in live. I would love to do that with you. So if there's a topic you want to talk about or something that you know is coming up, let me know. Email, text, tweet, go to the website, fill out the contact form. Whatever it is. So thank you all again for being on this. Go to iCoach.today for the replay and for all the live broadcasts, everything, all things iCoach. Okay, thank you all for being a part of this, and we will see you next time.